6 lucky numbers to win big lottery. Jackpot on Tuesday, the 19th of August, 2025. Buddhist teachings. On Tuesday, the 19th of August, many people will be looking for lucky numbers, hoping to win the lottery. But what if the most powerful lucky numbers aren't the ones you play, but the ones you live by? What if true wealth isn't won by chance, but is something you can create from within? In this video, we're going to reveal 6 lucky numbers that unlock something far more valuable than a jackpot, a life aligned with peace, purpose, and real abundance. These aren't just random digits, they are symbols that can guide you on a journey to create your own luck. Before we begin our journey, let's set a shared intention. Take a deep breath, and in the comments below, write, "I am ready to create my own abundance." Let that be your first step with us today. Let's begin. Part 1. The first step, number 35. Every great journey begins with a single, intentional step. That's the quiet power of our first number, 35. It reminds us that sacred growth doesn't happen through force, but through gentle, consistent action. In numerology, the 3 represents honest expression, and the 5 represents freedom. Together, they symbolize grounded, meaningful change. This is the middle way, balanced, mindful steps. Consider the story of Ethan, a writer frozen by fear. The number 35 kept appearing in his life, and he decided to use it as a catalyst. He asked himself, what if this is a sign to just take one small, honest step? He committed to writing 1 single page a day. That small, consistent choice didn't just unlock a book, it unlocked his peace and his flow. So, as we begin, what is one small, nurturing step you can take today? No pressure, no grand gestures, just a single step. Let this be your quiet mantra as you move through your day. I grow one mindful step at a time. Part 2. The second step, listening within, number 7. Now that we understand the power of that single step, where does it lead us? It leads us inward, to a place of stillness. This brings us to our second number, 7. Number 7 is a reminder that the most profound answers are found not in noise, but in silence. In Buddhist wisdom, it symbolizes the spiritual insight that comes when we stop running and start being. Take Daniel, a man who had all the outer signs of success but felt lost inside. A health scare forced him into stillness, and in that quiet, he finally heard what his heart had been screaming for years, his need for rest, for family, for balance. He began a practice of just 7 minutes of silence a day. Not to solve anything, but just to listen. And from that listening, clarity emerged. That quiet space is where your own inner wisdom is waiting. So, the question for you is not about predicting the future, but about creating space for your present. What truth is waiting for you in your next 7 minutes of stillness? Part 3. The third step, living your values, number 6. Stillness isn't passive, it's the foundation for right action. But how do we bring that inner peace out into the world? Our third number, 6, shows us the way. Number 6 represents a deeper kind of wealth, built on what Buddhist wisdom calls the 6 perfections: generosity, ethical conduct, patience, diligent effort, meditation, and wisdom. These aren't abstract ideals. They are a practical blueprint for a rich life. Think of Michael, a finance executive who had money and status but was crumbling inside. It wasn't until he walked away and began to build his life around these values, around meaning instead of metrics, that he felt whole. People were drawn not to his profits, but to his peace. He was no longer just rich, he was well. Living by these values is the ultimate investment. So, hold this question in your heart. What does true wealth really mean to you? Part 4. The fourth step, The inner awakening, number 11. Once we begin living from a place of inner stillness and outer values, something profound happens. We start to awaken to a deeper part of ourselves. This is the wisdom of our fourth number, 11. In numerology, 11 is a master number, a bridge to our intuition. It often appears when we're living on autopilot, as a gentle nudge to wake up. Sophia, a single mother buried in duties, kept noticing the number 11. She saw it not as a magical sign, but as a recurring invitation to pause and listen. The number became a breadcrumb trail she chose to follow back to herself. In that stillness, she reconnected with a forgotten dream. She didn't have to change her whole life, she just had to start living it with awareness. This is the awakening number 11 offers. It's a call to be present. As you move through this week, simply notice. Let this be your gentle vow. I choose to listen to the truth within me. Part 5. The fifth step. Abundance through alignment, number 26. When we awaken to our inner truth, the next step on our journey is to align our outer life with it. This is where real abundance begins, and it's the message of our fifth number, 26. The number 2 reflects harmony and relationships, while 6 represents service and responsibility. Together, they create soulful success, the kind that arises not from hustle, but from harmony. So often, we chase a version of success that looks good on the outside, but leaves us empty. We say yes when our heart says no. Number 26 whispers, what if you stopped running and simply walked in the right direction? This is about returning to who you are. So before you chase another goal, pause and ask yourself this powerful question. Is this path truly mine, or is it one I just picked up along the way? Let that question guide you. Part 6. The final step. Transformation from within, number 37. We've taken small steps, listened to our inner voice, lived by our values, awakened to our truth, and aligned our life. The final step on this journey is the deepest of all. It's about complete inner transformation, guided by our final number, 37. The number 3 represents truth, and 7 represents spiritual insight. Together, they are a bridge to your most authentic self. This number whispers, come home. Think of Jenna, a teacher who seemed to have it all but had drifted far from her passions. Finding an old journal wasn't a coincidence. It was a moment of grace that prompted her to listen again. The wisdom of 37 is not about escaping your life, but about returning to it, renewed. This is the ultimate conquest, to conquer the self that is not true. To be beautiful means to be yourself. So now, as we close this journey, I ask you, what one part of your true self are you ready to reclaim? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Today, we've walked through 6. From taking small steps with 35, to finding stillness with 7, to building wealth on values with 6, to awakening with 11, aligning with 26, and finally, transforming with 37. You see, true luck isn't about finding the right numbers on a ticket. It's about living in a way that aligns with the truth in your heart. That is an abundance no one can ever take away from you. Thank you for walking this path with us today. If this journey resonated with you, please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And finally, share with our community in the comments. Which of the 6 numbers spoke to you the most today, and why? Your insight might be the sign someone else needs to see. Be well, and remember, the greatest fortune is the peace you find within. How to build a harmonious relationship with money based on Buddhism. Have you ever felt stressed about money, no matter how much you have or don't have? You're not alone. In today's world, money often controls our emotions, our decisions, and even our self-worth. But what if there was a wiser, more peaceful way to relate to money, one that doesn't require you to become rich or give everything away. In Buddhism, money isn't seen as good or bad. It's simply energy, a tool that reflects our inner state. When guided by mindfulness, compassion, and right intention, money can actually support your spiritual growth, not distract from it. So how do we transform our relationship with money into one of balance, peace, and meaning? Let's explore the timeless Buddhist wisdom that helps us move from fear and attachment toward generosity, clarity, and true wealth. Number 1. Understand the nature of attachment. Attachment is the root of suffering, said the Buddha, and this simple truth holds profound meaning in our relationship with money. In modern society, money often becomes more than just a tool. It turns into a symbol of security, success, and self-worth. We might not realize how deeply we are entangled in this attachment until we experience anxiety when our finances fluctuate or feel compelled to chase wealth as a measure of our value. Buddhism invites us to look inward and ask gently but honestly, why do I want money? Is it for safety, recognition, control, or the fear of being left behind? By observing these emotional patterns without judgment, we begin the first step in transforming our relationship with money from one rooted in craving and fear to one grounded in mindfulness and gratitude. As the Dhammapada reminds us, let go of attachment and live free, which points to the liberating potential of releasing our grip on money's illusion of permanence. In our fast-paced lives, where financial goals are glorified and comparison runs deep through social media and modern expectations, this teaching is a reminder to pause. It's not about rejecting money or living without it, but rather about seeing it for what it truly is, a means, not an identity. When we shift from clinging to appreciating, from anxiety to contentment, we create space for peace. And peace, as the Buddha taught, arises when we are no longer enslaved by what we think we need to be happy. Instead of chasing more, we begin to cherish enough. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice of awareness and compassion towards ourselves and our patterns. A helpful metaphor from Zen tradition compares attachment to holding a hot coal tightly in our hand. It only burns us, yet we're reluctant to let it go. In the same way, when we grip money with fear or ego, we suffer. But once we begin to open our hand and see money as a flowing resource rather than a fixed source of identity, the burning eases. The Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness." This wisdom speaks directly to those of us striving for financial well-being, but caught in cycles of stress and scarcity. Letting go does not mean irresponsibility. It means releasing emotional bondage. It means approaching our finances with clarity rather than fear, and with generosity rather than greed. In practical terms, this might look like creating a budget that reflects your values rather than your status, or pausing before a purchase to ask, will this bring lasting peace or just a fleeting high? To truly build a harmonious relationship with money, we must meet it with the same mindfulness we bring to other aspects of our practice. By cultivating awareness of our attachments, we begin to transform them into understanding, and understanding leads to wiser choices, ones that support not only our well-being, but also the well-being of others. In this way, money becomes not a source of suffering, but a vehicle for compassion, sharing, and right livelihood. As we journey on this path, may we remember the Buddha's words, "Health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth, faithfulness the best relationship." May our hearts grow richer than our wallets, and may our relationship with money reflect the freedom and harmony we wish to see in the world. Number 2. Use money with right intention. When we talk about building a harmonious relationship with money through the lens of Buddhism, we have to start with the heart, more specifically, with right intention, samma sankappa. one of the core teachings of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right intention encourages us to live with compassion, goodwill, and a deep commitment to non-harming. So when it comes to money, it's not just about how much we have or how we spend. It's about why we do what we do with it. Ask yourself, is the way I earn and use money reflecting kindness, fairness, and care for others? Money in itself is neutral, but in our hands, it can become either a force that builds peace or a fuel that feeds suffering. When we earn money in honest and ethical ways, without harming others or exploiting situations, we bring mindfulness into our work and financial decisions. That means avoiding things like deceit, manipulation, or stepping over others just to get ahead. It also means letting go of greed and the constant craving for more, which only leads to dissatisfaction and restlessness. Instead, see money as a tool, not as a goal. When you align your financial choices with your deeper values, money can actually become a powerful part of your spiritual practice. For instance, supporting yourself with dignity through work that benefits others is already a step toward harmony. And when you go a little further, perhaps offering a meal to someone in need, donating to a cause that uplifts people, or simply being generous with your time and resources, you are using money as a form of compassion in action. Even small acts, done with sincerity, carry great weight. There's a beautiful ripple effect when money is used in service to others. It not only brings joy to the one receiving, but also cultivates joy within the giver. As the Buddha once said, "If beings knew, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given." This quote reminds us that generosity isn't just an act, it's a state of being, and it begins with intention. Now take a moment to reflect. How do your spending habits reflect your inner values? Are you using your resources in a way that supports peace, both within yourself and in the world around you? These questions aren't meant to judge, but to awaken a deeper awareness in how we relate to something as common and as powerful as money. When we shift from a mindset of grasping to one of giving, from ego to empathy, we not only reduce suffering in the world, we also find more ease in our own lives. This kind of awareness leads to a sense of fulfillment that no amount of wealth can buy, and over time this approach transforms money from a source of stress into a channel for meaningful connection and spiritual growth. So here's the message for today. Let your relationship with money be guided by right intention. Use it ethically, share it with compassion, and avoid letting greed, fear, or comparison lead your choices. When you live this way, you begin to see money not as something to chase or cling to, but as something you can direct toward goodness, healing, and peace. In doing so, you not only improve your own life, but also become a light for others. How might your life change if every dollar you used was an expression of your deepest values? Number 3. Practice mindful earning and spending. Let's talk about something many of us deal with every day, often without much thought how we earn and spend money. Now, take a deep breath with me for a moment. Let go of any stress or guilt you might feel when you think about money. This isn't about judgment, this is about awareness, about bringing peace and purpose to something that often feels chaotic. In Buddhism, we're taught to approach every aspect of life with mindfulness, and money is no exception. So ask yourself, gently but honestly, are you truly aware of how you relate to money? How do you feel when you receive it, spend it, or even think about it? Does it bring tension, fear, or attachment? Or does it feel like a tool you're using consciously with intention and kindness? You see, mindful earning and spending is about more than budgeting or cutting back on unnecessary expenses, though that can be part of it. It's about waking up to the effects our financial choices have on our inner peace, our relationships, and even the world around us. Buddhism encourages us to live with clarity and compassion, and that means looking at our financial lives through the same lens. One of the first steps is asking where your money comes from. Does the way you earn your income cause harm to others, maybe indirectly, through a company's environmental practices or labor policies? Do you feel aligned with the work you do, or is there a quiet discomfort you've been ignoring? The Buddha emphasized right livelihood, earning a living in a way that doesn't cause suffering to others. And when we start to question how we earn, something beautiful happens. We begin to move from unconscious routine to conscious, compassionate living. The same applies to how we spend. Every dollar we spend is a kind of vote for the world we want to live in. When you make a purchase, ask yourself, does this reflect who I truly want to be? Does this item or service support my values, or is it just filling a temporary craving? Are we buying to impress others, to distract ourselves, or to soothe some inner discomfort? This isn't about guilt, it's about freedom. When we become mindful spenders, we're no longer controlled by our impulses or advertising messages that try to tell us we're not enough unless we buy more. We step off the wheel of endless desire, even if just for a moment, and in that pause, we find peace. Practicing mindful earning and spending also connects us to two core Buddhist values: ahimsa, or non-harming, and santosha, or contentment. With ahimsa, we try to ensure that our financial decisions do not contribute to suffering, whether for people, animals, or the planet. With santosha, we learn to appreciate what we have instead of constantly chasing after more. These values are not about poverty or denial, they're about abundance of the heart. When you no longer need to prove your worth through wealth or possessions, you begin to understand what real richness feels like. So take a moment to reflect. What kind of world are your financial choices supporting? What kind of inner world are they creating within you? How might your relationship with money change if you approached it with mindfulness, compassion, and honesty? As you carry this question with you into your daily life, see if you can turn every transaction, every paycheck, and every purchase into an opportunity for awareness and growth. Because in the end, your relationship with money isn't just about finances, it's about who you are and what you value most deeply. Isn't that worth paying attention to? You're not just watching, you're transforming your mindset. If this message resonates with you, type "inner wealth" in the comments to anchor this shift. Stay with us, because the rest of this video holds gentle, powerful truths that can guide your financial journey with mindfulness and peace. Number 4. Cultivate generosity, Dāna. One of the most powerful yet often overlooked steps in building a harmonious relationship with money is to cultivate generosity, known in Buddhism as Dāna. This is not simply about charitable giving or occasional donations. Dāna is much deeper. It is the first of the 10 perfections, paramitas, on the path to enlightenment, because it teaches us to loosen the tight grip of attachment and self-centeredness that money can create. In a world where financial pressures, comparison, and fear of lack can dominate our thinking, Dāna offers a profound shift, from holding tightly to trusting the flow of life. When we give, whether it's a small financial offering, a heartfelt act of service, or the simple gift of our attention and presence, we are participating in a cycle of interconnectedness that softens greed and nurtures compassion. It's easy to believe that we should only give when we have enough, but the Dharma reminds us that it is the spirit in which we give, not the amount, that transforms both the giver and the receiver. As we grow older and face the realities of responsibilities, retirement planning, family needs, and sometimes even financial regret or anxiety, generosity can seem counterintuitive. But it is precisely in these moments that Dāna becomes most healing. Regular acts of giving, even modest ones, gradually shift our inner landscape from scarcity to abundance. They remind us that no matter what our bank balance says, we are capable of contributing meaningfully to the world. And this sense of contribution nourishes the heart. Giving with openness without expecting anything in return creates spaciousness in our relationship with money. It reduces fear, because fear tightens and isolates, while generosity expands and connects. This is why in Buddhist tradition, giving is done with joy and mindfulness, not out of obligation or guilt. A small act, like buying a meal for someone in need, supporting a friend's project, or simply being generous with your time and presence, plants seeds of kindness and ease within. In modern life, where the narrative often pushes us to chase, accumulate, and protect, Dāna invites us to pause and reflect on what truly brings fulfillment. We begin to see that contentment is not found in how much we have, but in how freely we can let go. This doesn't mean being reckless or ignoring financial planning. Rather, it means engaging with money from a place of trust, balance, and goodwill. A harmonious relationship with money doesn't depend on wealth, it depends on attitude. When we practice generosity consistently, we train the mind to see possibilities instead of limitations. We become more receptive to life's natural flow, including both giving and receiving. And from this space, wealth takes on a new meaning, not just financial, but emotional, spiritual, and communal. So consider today, where can you give, not as a transaction, but as an offering from the heart? Whether you're sharing a skill, donating a few dollars, or simply listening deeply to someone who needs it, each act of generosity becomes a thread in the fabric of a more compassionate world. As we practice this regularly, our relationship with money becomes less about fear and more about connection, and that is where real peace begins to grow. Number 5. Reflect on impermanence, Anicca. Let's talk honestly, heart to heart, about something we all face: money and the stress, joy, or confusion it can bring into our lives. One powerful yet often overlooked way to build a more peaceful and respectful relationship with money is by reflecting on a core Buddhist teaching, impermanence, or Anicca. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." That includes our wealth. This truth isn't meant to make us feel hopeless or careless with money. Instead, it's a gentle reminder to loosen our grip. The nature of money, like everything else, is that it comes and goes. There are seasons when our bank account feels full and seasons when it feels painfully empty. But when we truly understand that nothing lasts forever, neither riches nor lack, we can stop fearing financial change and start flowing with it. Now, ask yourself how much of your worry around money comes from wanting it to stay the same. Do you feel anxious when you think about losing it or not having enough in the future? This clinging creates suffering. Buddhism teaches that attachment to things that change, like wealth, will always bring discomfort, because change is the only constant. So what happens when we start to accept impermanence, not just as a concept, but as a natural rhythm of life? Something beautiful shifts inside us. We become less reactive, less fearful, and more grounded in the present moment. We stop basing our self-worth on the number in our bank account and begin to focus on what money can support: our ability to care for ourselves, help others, and live in alignment with our values. This mindset doesn't mean giving up on financial planning or being careless. In fact, understanding impermanence can make us more thoughtful with money. We save because we know today's abundance may not last. We give because we understand clinging too tightly can lead to greed and isolation. We live mindfully in each moment, asking ourselves, is this spending choice coming from fear or generosity, from ego or compassion? When we reflect deeply on impermanence, our decisions become wiser, more intentional, and more compassionate, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. You might wonder, how can we hold money responsibly while knowing it won't last forever? The key lies in balance. Buddhism doesn't ask us to reject money or see it as evil. Instead, It invites us to view it as a tool, something useful, but not something to build our identity around. When you see wealth as temporary, you stop chasing it like a lifeline and start using it like a resource. You stop feeling devastated when it's gone and grateful when it arrives, knowing that neither state defines who you truly are. What matters more is how you relate to it. Do you use it with wisdom and kindness, or does it use you through fear and craving? So today, take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what does money mean to me? How much of my happiness depends on holding on to it? What would it feel like to trust the natural ebb and flow of life, including my finances? These questions can open the door to a more harmonious, less stressful relationship with money, one built not on fear or obsession, but on peace, clarity, and purpose. The message to take with you today is this: wealth, like everything else, comes and goes, but inner peace, built on wisdom and mindfulness, can stay with you through every financial season. By embracing impermanence, you free yourself from fear, cultivate gratitude, and start to see money not as something to cling to, but something to use skillfully and kindly, in service of a life well lived. Number 6. Measure true wealth by inner peace. When we talk about wealth in everyday life, most of us immediately think about money in the bank, cars, homes, or how much we earn in a year. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself what really makes someone wealthy? In Buddhism, wealth isn't defined by material possessions or financial success. Instead, it's measured by the peace in your heart, the wisdom in your choices, and the compassion in your actions. Imagine this. A person might have very little in terms of money, maybe just enough to live on. But if their heart is free from greed, if their mind is calm, and if they treat others with kindness and generosity, that person is seen as truly prosperous in the eyes of the Buddha. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly at peace, without chasing something or worrying about losing something you already have? You see, when we rely on external things to define our value or sense of success, we step into a never-ending race. There will always be someone with more. But inner wealth is different. It doesn't depend on comparison or competition. It grows the more we practice mindfulness, gratitude, and self-awareness. True wealth is the ability to be content with what we have, to sleep peacefully at night without guilt or craving, and to feel joy not from acquiring, but from giving. Doesn't that sound like a more fulfilling kind of richness? The Buddha taught that a life lived with integrity, simplicity, and generosity leads to real happiness. He wasn't against money, but he warned us not to become attached to it, because attachment leads to suffering. So, the question isn't, how much do I have, but how am I using what I have? Are you using your resources to build a life that supports inner peace for yourself and for others? Are you using your money to express your values, or are you caught in a cycle of chasing more for the sake of status or fear? Let's reflect on this together. What would it look like if you started measuring your wealth not by numbers, but by the quality of your heart and the clarity of your mind? Can you think of a moment when someone with very little gave you something meaningful, maybe a smile, a helping hand, or a moment of sincere listening? Didn't that moment feel rich in its own way? As we continue this journey of exploring a harmonious relationship with money through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, I invite you to pause and look inward. Ask yourself, what does true wealth really mean to me? And how can I begin to build that kind of wealth starting today? And there you have it, 6 powerful numbers to reflect on and align with as we approach Tuesday, the 19th of August, 2025. Whether it's through the wisdom of number 9 or the grounding strength of 22, each one invites us to go beyond luck and into deeper awareness, intention, and transformation. Remember, in Buddhist teachings, true wealth begins not in our wallets, but in our hearts through clarity, compassion, and mindful action. May these numbers serve as gentle reminders to stay focused, live purposefully, and walk the path of both spiritual and material abundance. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to The Journey of Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming teachings and insights that can support your growth and well-being. Thank you for walking this path with us. Until next time, may peace and prosperity be with you.